More information comes out about the source of leaks from the FBI and Department of Energy and or public statements regarding China and the source of COVID-19. Also, Iran has started gassing women's dormitories in cities across Iran. And explosions, or an explosion, I should say, has been heard in the Moscow Oblast, a region a region that includes Moscow and just 2 miles from the capital. And China has waded into the Ukrainian situation with a diplomatic proposal. We're here with Operator Starsky today as we discuss this and more on The Rundown. Hello, and welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us. And let me just
Charlie again.
Of course. All right. How's my audio now?
A little bit better.
The same.
Not much. You need to update your crypto. Anyway, why don't you start off, Starsky, and just let us know how things have been going for you this week?
Oh, sorry, it's been up. Yeah, sorry. Okay, I should have audio now. It's this show. It's overtime. I don't know why. Yes, please, Starsky, do let us know what's been going on this week. Do I have to salute you now? Is that my understanding? There's been a change for you. Is that you've been promoted?
Yeah, it's true. Now I'm captain. And in Ukraine, every captain automatically receives a new call sign, which is obvious. So here in Ukraine this week, we celebrated 150,000 toasted orcs. It was just recently, but this morning this number already increased to 151,000, which shows a good tempo and good tendencies. So, of course, because Russians have approximately 2-3 times as much wounded people, we can talk about around 300,000 wounded. And it's a good number, I think. I think if we continue working like this, we can eliminate enough Russian personnel that is currently brought to Ukraine, which is up to 500,000 men, a bit less than that, actually. Again, because Russians suck at fighting at the front, they attack Ukrainian infrastructure and they keep striking civilian objects. Recently in Zaporizhia, as a result of a terrorist missile strike, residential building was hit, unfortunately. And I know that the rescuing operation is still ongoing there. Luckily, a lot of people were found alive under the debris. One of them, 𝐒𝐚𝐬 Melnyk, a young girl who spent almost 5 hours in a freezing cold under the debris, she was found alive, which is great. And one of the I would say important updates from the European Union is that European Parliament basically will create a special committee dedicated to studying and countering of Russian informational influence around Europe, because it's a very, very important topic that I think we should have reacted to maybe years ago. And also we have news from International Criminal Court. The prosecutor of International Criminal Court, Mr. Karim Khan, stated that Ukrainian side gave him plenty of evidence regarding Russian atrocities and military crimes that were committed in Ukraine. At the same time, Russians gave zero information. They didn't react in any way. And I think that probably we will never see those evidence from Russians, because institutions like International Criminal Court only review things that actually happened in real life. So that's mostly all from my side.
All right. Well, that's good. It sounds like so we know that they had done a. If you blinked, you missed their massive offensive in Ukraine. They apparently, we believe at this point that this was the large offensive, sort of spring offensive plan, and they were going a little early and trying to get ahead of it, and it seems to have been largely stopped, and phenomenal losses on their side. We also know that Bakhmut, though, was pretty close to strategically encircled. It no longer appears to be, but it's they seem to want that pretty badly, and have been throwing a lot of troops at it. What do we know about Bakhmut?
We know that the situation is under control. We have reports from our guys that are stationed there. And again, because we don't have access to the operative information at the level of, let's say, company commander and higher, we can talk from the standpoint of, people who watch social media and things. But we have reports from our guys there that say that, yes, situation is harder than it was. It's more complicated nowadays than it was 2 weeks ago, but it's still under control. And we can see that a lot of efforts are put into controlling the highway that is still under Ukrainian control, and Russians cannot take it despite all their efforts for months already. And we also know that Ukrainian reinforcement arrived to Bakhmut, and basically Russians have zero chance to take it in the closest future. But at the same time, we still have to keep our defense there, because we need to eliminate as much Russian personnel as possible, and that's basically what we're doing. We also know that they still lack tanks and armored vehicles to support their troops. We know that those mobilized personnel is of so much worse quality than their professional soldiers that were eliminated in Ukraine. And if we switch to Vuhledar real quick, for example, here I have a statistics that was collected from 26th of January and to 27th of February. And this statistic is basically found on Oryx. And during this incredible, massive offensive operation that Russians were talking about, only in Vuhledar they lost 57 tanks, 19 were completely destroyed, 33 of them were damaged, 4 abandoned, 1 captured. They also lost 69 infantry fighting vehicles and armored vehicles. Of them, 31 were completely destroyed, 1 captured. They lost 7 specialized vehicles and 4 trucks. There was a question, by the way, why only 4 trucks comparing to the to tanks, because usually, like destroying their logistics is important and stuff, but we're only talking about the vehicles that were used in the offensive operation, which is basically tanks and armored fighting vehicles. As for Bakhmut, basically situation is under control. Russians tried to increase their activities in the information field because they're losing big time in that area, as well as other fails like A-50 aircraft destroyed and things like that. So informationally they're losing big time, and that's why they started like huge informational campaign. Bots went completely nuts this week, and they were faking different secret documents and secret orders from Ukrainian command and things like that, which basically signalizes that I think it's a good indicator that they cannot reach their goals, no matter how hard they try.
All right. Well, thank you. So what I'd like to do is, Commander, if you want to take the helm there for a minute, and I know you had some questions that you wanted to ask, so why don't you take it away?
Sure. So I just want to comment on the Vuhledar thing that you were talking about. Apparently, that's one of the rare instances where we have an actual massive tank battle. It was tanks on both sides. Typically, what we've seen in the past is, javelins and other anti-tank guided missiles being fired by infantry, taking out the tanks. And the Ukrainians came out way on top. If you add up all those vehicles, it's essentially taking out an entire armored brigade. So that speaks well. The two things that I think stand out to me in the past week, one is the number of deep strikes that Ukrainians have been making with drones and the new very long-range glide bombs that we gave them for the HIMARS system, and that's definitely had an impact on the Russians. They're kind of knocked back by how effective those have been. I'm not saying that the attack or not the attack, but the explosion we just heard recently reported in Moscow this morning was associated with that, but I think that definitely is indicative of the kind of stuff that's now starting to go on, where the war is being brought home to the Russians inside their own country with increasing frequency. The concern I would have on that, and I'll let Starsky comment. One is, it does put the Russian people on notice that they're also at risk now because of the war being able to be taken to them. But it also potentially, I think, generates the foundation for a pro-Putin reaction within the populace, which is sort of along the lines of, oh my God, the Ukrainians are attacking Holy Mother Russia for real. It's not just propaganda BS, and we need to rally behind the glorious leader. What are your thoughts on that, Starsky?
They're already rallying behind their glorious leader, but the thing is, they are not socially active people at all. And when the situation starts degrading, usually they will not go out on the streets and things like that. They will not volunteer to join the army, to finish this war faster and things like that. They're not that kind of people. And I can say that probably 1% of Russians will be activated by those strikes, maybe. But something tells me that I'm wrong. Yeah. Regarding tanks, by the way, I missed this thing. So a couple of days ago, Russians started sharing information in the social media that they captured a Leopard tank that's stuck in the mud, and they even showed a picture of like a Leopard tank that's stuck in the mud with like Russian flag already attached to it. But because Russians cannot use Google well, unlike all other people in the world, they very quickly, the original picture was found, and it's a picture taken in 2006 in Germany. That was a Dutch modification of Leopard 1, and it was really funny. They photoshopped. It was so cool. But the coolest thing was that this was actually posted by Russian officials in Twitter. It was so amazing. But I'm not surprised at all.
I'm surprised. I would have thought it would have been made of paper mache, but I guess it was a real tank. It was just in Germany.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, I'm gonna isolate Commander Macmillan out there for a second while he's on the phone. So, let's see. So, I assume you had more questions you wanted to ask. Do we know anything about the explosion that happened in it wasn't in Moscow. I think it was in the Moscow Oblast. It was just 2 hours outside of Moscow. There's rumors that it was a drone that got shot down. There was a manufacturing plant that was making missiles nearby. That may have been the target. Do we know anything about it? And what are your thoughts on its impact? Macmillan had pointed out it was a double-edged sword. It might energize people to say, "Oh my God, we're under attack," and then again, it may just bring the war home to them. You already half answered the question, but.
Yeah, actually, Russians are already saying this. I was monitoring their social media, and there's plenty of commentaries. Actually, Russians are panicking. They're saying that now we are bombed. Probably we shouldn't have started this military operation in Ukraine and things like that. And people are scared. Of course, I can understand them. They should be. So as for this explosion, currently we have a bunch of CCTV footage, which doesn't show exactly what happened. But again, there are plenty of facilities in Kolomna, in that town, and only missile producing facilities. However, they produced, I think, missiles for 𝐒𝐤𝐬 manpads, as well as Iskander ballistic missiles. There's also a facility for that produces different military automobiles and things like that. So of course, each of those facilities, I'm sure they're equipped with CCTV cameras as well. Currently, we have no footage. I think that Russians are trying to, at least at this point, they're trying to calm people down, and they try not to talk much about it. However, there's quite a lot of cotton happening in Russia nowadays. Currently, I think it was today, huge fire happened in Krasnodar in the military flight school. Obviously, because those Russian cadets opened a pack of cigarettes, and that happened, like it always happens. Russians tried to debunk this, and they claimed that it was a dry grass that ignited by itself in early March. Basically, in Russia, there's always winter. Like happens all the time. So there was another explosion. Oh my God, I don't remember. Just like recently, just like today. Anyways.
All right. Well, so Commander, I guess did you have any other questions that you wanted to ask? All right.
No, I thought it was interesting that there's some video that has come out of the drone attack on the Russian mainstay, which is that AWACS-like aircraft they have. And just from my standpoint as, a guy who was in the military, two things really stood out to me. Number one, how close the operators of the drone were to the base. I mean, they're literally just outside the fence line. So it's kind of surprising how easily they were able to get in that close to do the operation. And secondly, how you can see from the cameras they're flying along, there isn't a single patrol vehicle or sentry or anything. It's just their planes are sitting there on the flight line unattended. It's like, why didn't this happen before? I mean, a 2-year-old with a slingshot could take out one of these things the way it's working. It's mind-boggling. It really is.
Absolutely. Because I have an Antonov airfield like nearby, I can tell you that it's a huge territory. People don't understand how huge airfields are.
Oh yeah.
Especially those that are built to be able to accept such huge airplanes like Mainstay, for example. And judging from the fact that this was a very, very small drone, like racing drone basically, the range of such drones is about 1 kilometer, maybe less. They're very, very small. And it means that they should have taken some position like next to the fence of the airport or something like that. Another thing I was asked in the commentaries, what kind of damage was delivered to the Mainstay, and the answer is obviously if those partisans were smart, they would use armor-piercing explosion, aka cumulative type of charge that burns through the armor. But even a common hand grenade could deliver a lot of.
Yeah, those kind of aircraft are not particularly well armored, if at all. It's basically kind of a civil airliner that's just jam-packed with military radars and other electronics. So yeah, and you watch it, and the drone pilots obviously having either fun or difficulty controlling the drone because he keeps flying back and forth around the thing, looking at it. Oh, I want to set it. No, I can't quite get it to land exactly where okay, now it's where I want it to go. Boom, then it goes off. It's like anybody with a pistol near that plane probably could have shut that drone down, but there wasn't anybody probably within 1,000 meters of the thing, would be my guess.
I think if there was a person with a pistol, this person would better prepare shooting himself, seeing that drone so close to the Mainstay. But yeah, because the aluminum skin of aircraft is so thin and tender, basically even a hand grenade could deliver tremendous damage, and not only make the pressurization system useless, absolutely, but also destroy that precious electronic that was,
you don't have to burn the airplane down to the ground. All it takes is some damage to one or two key features of the plane, and it's effectively out of operation for months, possibly years, assuming it's even repairable at all.
Yeah, absolutely. Considering the fact that those electronics were developed in like 60s, I think that they will have some problem finding parts for the repair.
No,
But
they're vast storehouses of spare parts in Siberia, and they're being mobilized to send all the necessary components to build top-line tanks and missiles to the factories right now.
oh yeah, they will have to disassemble like 100 washing machines now to repair that.
High-tech washing machines. Let's be honest here. Oh, boy.
Well,
Yeah, it's taken on comedic elements the whole way things are just being botched by the Russian, not just military, but the entire, planned economy kind of thing, of how poorly handled it is. Just mind-boggling.
Yesterday there was another like mini disaster in Russia. There was this, I believe, 𝐒𝐤𝐸-76, but I may be wrong. Another huge military cargo airplane that had some testing at the testing facility, and they tested the pressurization system of this aircraft while parked on the ground at the sea level, and it exploded. And because God hates orcs so much, some of them died.
Wow. So if you're, this is a news show, it's an informational channel, so I'd like to the Russian citizens who are watching, we've learned a few things that we'd like to share with you. One, be careful where and how you smoke. Two, if there's an open window, please hold up your hands and back away slowly. Any open windows that you see, we have to advise you to keep your distance, and don't test aircraft on the ground, and stay away from. You know what? Just call it a night. Stay home. Leave Ukraine too would be a nice thing. That will help your longevity. All right.
Yeah.
So we spoke. You talked about shooting down that drone that was that they had. You could do it with just a pistol. I did not know. You are apparently an expert on destroying drones. Yes, I've learned. So I would like to hear
a story.
I would like to hear how, Operator Starsky, you became so famous as the drone killer of the Ukrainian army.
I'm a good shooter. Okay?
We've learned.
I admit it. And in 2017, we were on a deployment near the 𝐒𝐤𝐸𝐿𝐴 College. I was a platoon's first sergeant, and my platoon was stationed on the first line. And we had a couple of positions. We had a big problem, actually, because all of our positions were supplied with electricity from a village through a small wire used in the field phone. And it only provides you with like 150 volts, which is not enough to charge your phones, prepare coffee, play World of Tanks. And you cannot win the war if you cannot play World of Tanks. I mean, what kind of war is this?
I'd like to. Let me interrupt. We were talking about this yesterday. Two new Russian volunteers that I found, and this was legit. This was straight up. This was real. They were on Twitter arguing and talking about how much Ukraine is just propaganda, all this other stuff, and they're going to join the Russian military. They were talking about they want to volunteer. They want to go over, and their experience was how much time they've put into modern warfare. And I'm sitting there going like, okay, that's it now. The Russians are literally like, okay, how many hours do you have on Modern Warfare? Okay, have you played World of Tanks? Because we will be putting you in a tank. So if you've played World of Tanks, you're going to be a captain. All right, perfect. That's the Russian. What is it? That's how they're getting their soldiers now. It's just sort of like, does anyone here have any experience on Flight Simulator? Okay, you're a new pilot. We're putting you in a MiG. Anyways, I'm sorry for interrupting, but it's just like, that's really, you're not kidding. That really is what they're doing. But please continue.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And in case they get to the front lines, they will be so surprised. I tell you this.
Are you trying to imply that real life is different from the video game? I'm shocked.
Just a bit, like
Okay.
yeah. So we had a problem on our positions. That's why we were very, very sad. All of our vending machines with Coca-Cola were like warm and things like that, and we could not fight in such conditions at all. So I could not charge the battery of my Apache helicopter hidden in the bushes and things like that. So we asked our supply sergeant for help, and he brought this electrician with like a wire, 2 kilometers of wire, and because he was a really nice electrician, he disconnected my position completely. That's why the next morning I woke up to the sound of dying radio stations. And I decided to go and find this electrician because, you know, we cannot survive without World of Tanks, but even more than that, we cannot survive without radio communication, obviously. So I found them at a different position that was connected. He connected this position during the night, and everything worked. We had some tea. And then we went out to connect my position because it was more important position to that village through a good wire, good cable. So we were sitting there, you know, like connecting cables and cleaning contacts and things like that. And then after a while, we noticed a drone. And from my perspective, it looked as if it was flying from the other side, you know, like where the enemy were. And my supply sergeant, he asked in a very calm tone of voice, he asked, can you shoot it down? And that very moment, I had zero doubts that I even should shoot it down, you know? It wasn't like I thought like maybe I should ask somebody or like assess the situation, you know? I was like, of course I can shoot it down, but, you know? And this
Here, hold my beer.
yeah. And this supply sergeant, he was my best friend because he always gave me canned meat from our MREs because he didn't consume meat. He was like not like a Buddhist, but he was into, you know, like all the Vedic cultures and things like that. So he was always somewhere there in like 𝐒𝐤𝐕𝐿𝐴, you know, meditating while doing things, and he was always ice cold. And he was like, "I don't think you can shoot it down, and you cannot say such words in my presence, okay?" Because I said like, "Look at this." So I took my rifle. And it took me 5 shots. Then we saw it like buzzing down, like bzz, you know. And this sergeant said, "We can go and pick up the flash card." And in my imagination, I instantly saw like two military awards already, like mine and his. And I was like, okay, so we rushed towards this crash site. And I saw, first of all, I saw very, very sad. He was I think he was our company NCO. He was very, very not like very sad, but let's say disappointed, and he was screaming like, "I sent you a message. I sent you a radio message." I was like, "I'm sure you did." But I didn't receive it, obviously. And then I saw those two very, very sad drone operators from the armed forces of Ukraine. And the reason why they were sad was basically because 59th Brigade that was operating next to us, they only had one working drone.
And now they have none.
Yeah, but basically it's the same as none usually. So I helped them to collect the drone. And by the way, one interesting detail was that actually I hit it twice because it was missing a camera and it was missing a propeller. So basically I cut the propeller with a bullet and shot off the camera. The distance, again, it was probably one of my best shots because the distance was approximately 150 meters, and we are talking about Phantom drone. It's this big, okay. It's not a big target, and yeah, the girl, the drone operator, she was very, very upset because of that. And my guys, they were standing there near their shelter, smoking and laughing, like soldiers usually do, because they don't need a reason to laugh, but if they have a reason, So they were laughing, and they told me that it was a really good shot. They stopped laughing when I said that obviously we will have to pay for this drone as a family, that's why they stopped laughing instantly. And then I received a bunch of calls. First call was from my platoon commander, our CO, and he was very, very, let's say, he was also sad because, whenever such things happen, because we're a family, our platoon is like, one big family. We always have to pay for stuff we do, like together. And another thing was, another call was from our battalion commander, and he said, your shooting skills are perfect, but your tactical skills suck.
Oh, dear Lord.
And after that, every time some drone was involved into my everyday's life, our guys were like laughing their asses off because, when we had like drones flying or shooting something, they always tried to take my rifle from me.
Like, oh, Starsky, look over there. They just go grab your rifle and like, okay, we can do the test now. Oh dear Lord. So I suppose if it's between a Starsky drone killer or Captain Obvious, which do you think sounds better?
Captain Drone Killer, definitely.
Okay. That's perfectly fair. You've earned it. All right. One last thing I want to discuss, and we're gonna wrap it up a little early today. Just give everybody. I know everybody everybody on the panel today has other obligations, so we will be wrapping it up shortly. Before I ask my final question, because I want to talk briefly about China's foray into this, which was slightly unexpected. Just a reminder, we are streaming simultaneously on In Time and on Overtime. Why 2 channels? It's real simple. We are an educational program. Some of our content is news. It's breaking news, what's happening right now. That's what you'll find on In Time. We'll talk about politics, what's going on with world events, COVID, anything that's sort of, you know, if you want to understand what's going on this week, In Time is your channel. But we also like to talk about other topics. We'll talk about philosophy, psychology. We'll do interviews with guests, and we usually keep that on Overtime. If you're interested in the news, you can subscribe to one. If you're interested in the interviews, you can subscribe to the other. And if you like both, you can subscribe to both. But we are doing a subscription drive for Overtime. We want to get that to 1,000 subs. That makes our lives a lot easier. It is not monetized. You can't pin comments. You have limitations in the community tab. So all of that happens until we hit 1,000 subs. So we're dividing the channel into 2 so that you have more choice over which content take, half of it, all of it, whatever works best for you. But for now, we are definitely trying to get that channel up to 1,000 subs. So if you can go to Overtime, if you're on In Time right now, the link is at the top. If you want to do a super chat or donate in any way, that can only be done on In Time because that's the larger channel. It's monetized. You'll find the link to that in the description, and all of our super chats, 100% are going to the charity of Starsky's choice. He chose the Vatra volunteer organization. The information for that is also in the description, and we've so far had a lot of super chats and been able to send them a lot of donations, and that's all come from you guys. So thank you all for that. So thank you for your support. Please like, subscribe, and if you like the content, share. That's one of the best things that you can also do to help the channel. It's free. You know, we appreciate donations. We love our patrons. We appreciate our support. But one easy thing anyone can do who likes this content to help us get that content out easier, help us out with the YouTube algorithm. I wish you could shoot that, Starsky. Just like, subscribe. It really does help us out. So now I have had Commander McMillan muted. His dogs have a number of opinions on Starsky's both his aim and his target selection abilities, but we have decided that we'll put their opinions on hold. So let me bring them back and see how they're doing. There he is.
So did you want to talk about the Chinese 12-point plan?
Absolutely, that was mine. I'd like to get Starsky's opinion on it first, and then so that'll be our last 10 minutes here. Let's get Starsky's just opinion on them wading in, and then if the 2 of you could discuss it, I'd appreciate it. So Starsky, China has weighed in. I'm sure you felt a great sense of relief when they said that they're coming to help. So what are your thoughts?
Our chief of Security and Defense Council basically expressed the opinion of every Ukrainian about this plan proposed by China. And he said that because Russians killed hundreds of Ukrainian children, thousands of Ukrainian children lost their arms and legs because of this Russian invasion, and of course because they kidnapped tens of thousands of Ukrainian children, bringing them to the Russian territory, basically deportating those kids. There is absolutely no point in talking to Russian terrorists. And he also added that if he had chance, he would kill Putin with his bare hands. And I completely support this point of view. So that's this pretty much reflects my opinion on this peace plan.
Yeah, the part I particularly liked was the admonition that neither side should be threatening the other with the use of nuclear weapons.
Yeah, I hate it when Ukraine threatens people with nuclear weapons. It's you know,
you guys are just out of
yeah,
control.
guys, you got to keep that nuclear talk down, okay? It's. Well, there was a lot of that. They also said that neither side should be committing any human rights violations. Now, Commander, you and I have talked about this before.
Curiously, if you read between the lines, it says it's okay if you're committing human rights violations inside your own territory because that's your sovereign right.
I did not catch that.
You have to literally read between the lines, between two different points, but essentially it kind of is saying that.
Now, here's a question. Would Luhansk, Donetsk, those areas, would those be considered Russian territory for the sake of this peace plan?
I can't really say. I'm sure that the Chinese would view it from the standpoint of, the Uyghurs and the Tibetans are within their territorial sovereign nation, so they get to do to them what they want.
Interesting. So,
the takeaway, as we talked about last night, I think, is that you have to look at this document from the perspective of the Chinese. Why did China issue this document in the form they did at the time they did? And I think the key takeaway is because it suits Chinese needs. They don't really care less about what's going on in Europe, specifically Ukraine and Russia. The document is there to make themselves look good because whether the Ukrainians and or Russians embrace that document or not, they still come out looking great because they're the ones who proposed it and they're taking over the leadership role on a global stage because the Americans are not competent to do it anymore. They haven't come up with a peace plan, but we did. That's what's at work here.
So
basically, I could rephrase this document and decrease the number of those points to basically 2 points. Basically summarizing everything, it's enjoy life and celebrate, and that's all. And they look great. They look like peacekeepers, basically.
Yeah.
You had said, Starsky, a couple months ago, you had suggested that we were talking about the almost hyperbolic friendship between Russia and China, where they said, "Well, we're besties. There's no daylight between us in terms of policy and how we're acting." One of the things that you had said was, "This is actually very dangerous for Russia because China will stab them in the back first chance they get, because the Chinese really aren't that different from Russians in this sense. So they will stab them in the back." Is that still your view? And Commander, do you echo that view?
I believe so, because we are not talking about democratic countries. We're talking about countries ruled by totalitarian regimes. And countries that ruled by totalitarian regimes, they are not best buddies. Like they're not best potential partners, in my opinion.
Yeah. The thing I think that's important to remember is China is traditionally an inward-looking nation. And when they start flexing their muscles and doing something outside the country, it's because the central government is facing pressure from within. And I think that's kind of what's going on, because we know that China's having difficulty because of COVID is just having huge effect with them. They essentially locked the country down, and people have been out of work for upwards of a year now. So they're under enormous pressure to do something. And the way you get people to forget all their current problems is to point the finger at those filthy foreign devils who are causing all the problem. So whether it's the U.S., or other countries having anything to say about what's going on in the South China Sea, or it's we're trying to point the finger at everybody, pay attention to what is going on, and we're trying to be the good guys and solving it in Ukraine. It's all about what's really involved is Chinese internal politics. I think that's a large part of what's going on here. So if it gets down to push comes to shove for them, where they really need to do something big, I don't know. If I were, part of the Chinese Communist Party's Central Committee, I'd be looking north, where this huge, resource-rich, lightly populated area from a country that's now got most of its forces either shattered or committed to a war on the literally the other side of the globe. Yeah, I'd say, this might be an opportune time to do a quick victorious land grab to distract the angry masses.
Out of curiosity, Commander, what's your over/under on the at some point in the near future? By that I mean next couple of years, them making some hay, whether it's physical or just in terms of what is it? My brain is fried right now. Apologies. In terms of not political, but making some having some event, whether it is some kind of argument or actually moving in and physically trying to take that land. What's your over/under on that becoming a significant issue in the next couple of years?
Again, I think a lot of it depends on what's going on inside China. If they can keep the lid down on internal unrest, placate the new, I hate to use the term, but we'll call it the Mandarin class of all the people who've made money off of the capitalist reforms there. If they can placate them, keep things under control, I don't think that they're likely to start a war with the Russians or anywhere else. I think, however, the reverse is also true. If they continue to get pressure from within to reform the system, to change things, to give people more voice in how the country is governed, then the central government may very well decide that, well, we need that distraction, so they'll try something. Where that something is that they try, I don't know. But I think that's what you do, is you keep an eye on internal Chinese politics to get a sense of whether there's a likelihood of adventurism.
All right. Well, thank you, gentlemen, very much. Captain, thank you so much for joining us. It has been a pleasure, as always. Have you got anything coming up in the next couple of days that you wanted to talk about? I was wondering if you had any Captain Obvious, anything in? Yeah, he's not used to the title. I assume you're gonna be doing the shills. I think you guys moved that from Saturdays to Sundays, but I don't entirely remember, and my schedule's all over the place. So don't ask me. What are you doing?
The next meeting will be tomorrow on Saturday. We moved on Sunday last time because Dick Dawson had some issues with connections. So it will be tomorrow, 10 p.m. Ukrainian time. No idea your time.
I believe that's 3 p.m. Eastern. All right, perfect, marvelous. Well, I hope to be there. Commander, I assume you're going to attempt to attend that as well.
We'll see how I'm feeling after the tooth fairy does his damage.
Well, yeah, I know. Dentists have been making the rounds on In Time. Jesus, we're losing guests, hosts, the whole 9 yards. All right. Well, all right. Well, thank you very much, Commander, for joining us. Thank you to everybody who has stayed through the show. We really appreciate your support. and we look forward to seeing you guys next time. Operator, Starsky, please stay safe, and I look forward to catching up with you tomorrow on the shills. Have a marvelous evening, sir.
Thank you so much.
Take care.